I've been overweight, skinny, strong, and now trying to get shredded. And most of what I did in each phase was wrong. Here's what finally worked and what I would never do again. In this video, I'm going to cover how I went from this picture with a huge dad gut to now when I'm looking my best. So here's some quick context so you know that this isn't theory. I walked the walk in all phases of fitness, and I'm going to cover a whole bunch of pictures through that and kind of go over how I got from there to here. So what have I done? I've competed in all endurance events. So that's 5K races where I did 20 minutes. I did 10K races, best time 43 minutes. I've done half marathons. I've done Ironman 70.3 in Calgary. I also qualified for Team Canada age group duathlon sprint during COVID. And more recently, I've been able to build up my strength where I've been able to bench over 310 pounds. And since then, I've been working on my shredded goal where I've lost 30 pounds. All of that has been straight fat. In fact, my strength has increased across most exercises since dropping those 30 pounds. And that's why I wanted to start sharing my story over YouTube so you can follow along and see what I've done right and see what I've done wrong. So I've always been a sports kid. I played competitive soccer growing up. I won the cross country at my school. I played volleyball. I played basketball. I played badminton. I was super active as a kid. I was a sporty kid. Then after school, I went into engineering, and that's when everything changed. I gained my freshman 15 and then gradually increased weight through my 20s. I knew I wasn't where I should be. You can see the large dad gut I was rocking back then. I was sitting around 230, 240 pounds, and was not a muscular 240 pounds. Then one random day, I decided to run 10 kilometers. Had a Forrest Gump moment, not sure why. I just wanted to get out, prove to myself I could still do it. And away I went. And guess what? When I woke up the next morning, it felt like a truck hit me. But you know what that did? It flipped a switch in my mind, and I knew I needed a change. From that moment on, I got hooked on endurance racing. I started competing in Spartan races. That's when I started doing the 5Ks, the 10Ks, the half marathons, the duathlons, the triathlons, the Ironman 70.3s. I dropped all the weight and got really good at endurance, but where did that leave me? It left me as the tall 6'2" skinny dude who just does cardio. You can see I dropped a lot of weight through these pictures, and really the last two pictures, kind of showing my abs and I'm wearing the Team Canada jersey. I didn't really look that bad, but you know what? I knew it wasn't sustainable. I kept getting sick. I kept getting run down, and I wasn't able to progress my training to the next level. I was struggling to get faster, stronger, go further. I was training hard, but looking back, it was my nutrition that was lacking. I'll cover that later. So what happened? COVID hit. Initially, my motivation skyrocketed and then plummeted. During that same time, work also got intense, and we ended up moving cities. Through this, the weight kept creeping back up. Here's a series of pictures showing my weight steadily increasing back up, where I topped out at 242 pounds. And again, it wasn't a healthy 242 pounds. No cardio, no weightlifting, nothing. Then I took control of my schedule again, running my own engineering practice. This was able to free up a lot of time throughout my weeks, my days, in order to get back into fitness. Here's when I set a new goal. So I was the skinny cardio guy. I then wanted to go on to my next challenge, which was the strong guy. So I set a bench press goal that I've always wanted to achieve of benching over 300 pounds. This challenge was completely different than what I knew with cardio training. I had to learn programming in the gym. I had to learn how to recover properly in order to grow. And then I needed to figure out my nutrition. That was the biggest one. Over this 2-year period, I was fairly inconsistent, but last summer, I finally hit 310 pounds on a bench press. During this phase, I was all about protein, progressive overload, maxing out efforts all the time. I felt like a big dog. So yeah, you can see me, the last picture here is when I just stood up from benching 310 pounds, which I'm very proud of as a tall person because, let's face it, short people have physics working with them. And then I hit that moment. I said, well, shoot, I hit this goal. What's next? I was strong, but in the mirror, I didn't look how I wanted to. I didn't look like, the people in the movies, the people in fitness magazines, the people I see at the gym. I looked big, but I wasn't jacked or shredded. So I shifted my goal again into body composition. And again, this was another different type of beast to learn. Over the last 10 months, I've dropped exactly 30 pounds, so averaging 3 pounds a month. You can see I now have all of the definition in the back that I've been wanting. I now have definition in my midsection. Plus the biggest thing is my strength actually didn't drop. I was actually able to increase all of my exercises from my peak weight when I did that bench press, plus drop all of the fat. I'm closing in on the leanest I've ever been in recent adulthood. Right now I'm sitting somewhere between that 13.5 to 15% range with the way I've been measuring. Be consistent. I started around 25% last summer. And with this phase, I'm targeting 12%. So I have another 7 pounds or so to reach that goal. So I'm probably 5 to 8 weeks away, depending on how hard I want to push that. And while I feel smaller than I used to, and it was a bit of a mind F during this process to get smaller, but I ended up feeling like I look better through this process. And you know how I know? It's because I get way more attention from the ladies. So what actually worked? Here's what actually made the difference this time. It was simple, repeatable systems, and consistency outweighed everything. First of all, nutrition. I stopped guessing. I made sure I hit a minimum protein every day. That was non-negotiable. I started controlling calories and focusing on consistent with nutrition over perfection. So it worked well for me, might not work well for you, but I would eat perfectly Monday to Friday, and then I would eat whatever I wanted on the weekend. Secondly, strength training became a priority. I had to learn how to train in order to keep muscle during this 10-month deficit and figure out just what progressive overload was going to look like for me week to week. Third, I started doing cardio, but cardio in a way that I've never done before. It was cardio with a purpose. And again, it wasn't just endless cardio. What I started to do was focus on walking every day. I did so much cardio in my 20s, I do not want to run. I sometimes enjoy running, not right now, but I love walking. I listen to my podcasts, I get outside, go for a walk. Hitting 10,000 steps a day made a huge difference for me. It took away hunger cravings, it made me feel more active, and it started to take away some of my lower back pain. 4, consistency. Nothing else matters without consistency. So I set up these systems in order to achieve my steps every day, my protein every day, minimum amount of strength workouts every week, and then set up calorie targets for me that work with my lifestyle so I could still enjoy going out, enjoy life, but didn't feel restricted. I think the hardest period was December with all of the parties and the holidays. We've always been really bad at making and eating a lot of Christmas cookies, from December 1st on. We made changes this year to eliminate that from our house. I pretty well ate perfectly all the way up until December 21st. And then part of my plan was just whatever happens between then and New Year's happens. And that's what I had to mentally do in order to get through the holidays. And it worked. I actually ended up losing weight in December. This last one goes unnoticed a lot of times, but recovery. In the beginning, I was super gung-ho, lots of workouts, lots of steps, lots of everything. And then I started to repeat the same failures I was doing in cardio, overtraining, overdoing it, getting sick, getting injured. So I took a step back and tried to figure out, okay, what works for me in my body so I can recover fully before jumping into the next workout. So where did I screw up? I screwed up every phase of the process. And honestly, this is the part that matters the most, and I'll cover what I'd never do again. First one is relying on cardio only. So many people, including me back then, thought if you want to get skinny, do cardio. That is 100% not the case. If you don't have your nutrition dialed in, if you don't have some strength training in there, you're not going to get to a healthy skinny. Secondly, ignore nutrition. So in my 20s, I thought I still had the invincibility you would get as a teenager. And what I found out was you cannot out-train a bad diet, especially the older you get. I am 38 years old. Recovery is certainly slowing down. Another one is an all or nothing mindset. I've always been guilty of this through my life. I would go all in on something. I'm totally obsessed about it, and then burn myself out, and then drop it cold, undo everything. So what I've been trying to do now is when I feel myself getting too all in on something, I'll take a small step back before I get too carried away. Again, that's with the goal of making these systems part of my lifestyle for the long term, not just for a short term goal. This last one was a must during my shredded phase, was do not train without a system. I had to go to the drawing board on what do my strength workouts look like. I'm going to phase it through the week, what I'm going to do for volume, what I'm going to do for steps, what I need to do for nutrition throughout the week, and put it all together and adjust it as my lifestyle got in the way and affected some of it. And I got sick and holidays and work and things like that, and kept adjusting it throughout the year in order to keep it as consistent as possible. Now onto the results. This is the most dramatic change I've ever had. This last phase is where I dropped, like I said, 30 pounds of nearly straight fat over 10 months. It felt completely different than any other phase I've gone through. I was stronger, I looked better, and the entire time I actually felt like I was in control, which I did not feel like that in previous phases. And I think that's because I've been putting systems in place and sticking to them, but also making it adaptable as life changes around me. Like anything, it wasn't fast, it wasn't overnight, and it wasn't done perfectly. I still make mistakes, but that's part of it. That's part of life. And that's really how you should make your plan, is how to adapt your plan through these mistakes, because they're gonna happen. And they should have. And that's what I've learned. I mean, fitness is not just one phase, it's a lifelong journey. I've been a sports kid, the overweight guy, the endurance athlete, the lifter, and now focusing on body comp. And that's one of the reasons why my wife and I just bought a gym recently, to make fitness a permanent part of our life. And now we're looking to help others do the same. So if any part of this sounds like you, drop a comment. I do read all of them. And in the next video, I'm going to break down exactly what I did to drop these 30 pounds.